All right. And we're live. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for watching. This is the Agency Operators Podcast. My name is Pasha. Today, I have a great guest. His name is Josh Mangum. He's the founder of WIT Group, and they're a full service agency. They do a whole bunch of different marketing. Josh has had tons of experience in the industry, working as an inbound specialist and building his company over longer than a decade, it looks like. And today we'll be talking a lot about AI. Obviously it's a hot topic in the space, but it's definitely getting overused, and I think people are relying on it a little bit too much. So perhaps it's time to talk a little bit about that and ways that we could really integrate it in the best way possible while not losing out on the human touch that people really are after. When they work with an agency, they want that personalized touch. So without further ado, I'm going to just roll in the intro. And then, Josh, I'd like to hear a little bit more about, just kind of starting at the roots. So here we go, coming in. All right,
All
love
right,
that.
love that.
So, Josh,
So,
uh,
John,
tell us a little
tell
bit
us a
about
little.
your background, how you got started, what led you into your position today as agency founder and operator.
Sure. And thanks for having me on. That's great. And love that logo that just came across, that animation. That was really cool.
Thanks.
So I've been in marketing since the get. I went to school for marketing at Wingate University for undergrad, and then a little bit of postgraduate education, all centered around marketing. So I knew when I graduated that that's what I wanted to do. I graduated at a pretty interesting time. It was during that '08 crisis. So the jobs were not exactly plentiful. So I ended up self-teaching digital marketing, because at that point, digital was not an area that anybody really was an expert at. There were experts at that time, but not many. So the competition was better for me. So I could try to get on with the companies and do their digital marketing. And at that point, I got into performance-based marketing, lead generation, and that started with a lot of search marketing. Back in the day, it was all SEO, and then eventually SEO kind of leads into paid ads, and then that leads into website optimizations. And so I learned how to build websites. And so my career kind of went that direction. And, I've worked in agency, I've worked in corporate environments. So I've seen kind of both sides of kind of how those different teams operate. But my focus has always been pretty much centered around lead generation, demand generation, and driving revenue from marketing efforts. So the agency itself is based around that same thing. Go figure. So we're a performance-based digital agency. So we work on commission to drive leads, sales, enrollments, web, e-commerce sales, things like that for our clients. And so we have to pretty much stay on the forefront of all the new recent developments and the advances in technology, because we're competing against, everybody else on the internet to help our clients get seen, to help the websites convert at a higher rate, and to help improve processes. And that's maybe where a little bit of this conversation can steer into the AI conversation. Is we work in that gray area between sales and marketing and operations a lot. And so we see opportunities in a lot of cases to increase operational efficiency and automate repetitive processes. And we are using AI. We're working with a lot of clients that are using systems and programs and AI. And we see very good uses of that technology. And then we've also seen a little bit of abuse, which I think I mentioned to you when we first spoke.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So before we get into the AI stuff, I'm just curious how you're able to move forward as a commission-based agency. I mean, obviously there's a lot of overhead, especially with new relationships. You're essentially investing a lot. So are you guys just really doing like heavy due diligence before you work with a new client? Or do you have like certain minimums that protect you or certain contracts that protect you? Because yeah, I mean, it's really like you're going pretty deep with your resources on an initial kind of engagement. Certainly later it's a lot less risky, but I'm just kind of curious how you guys are able to do that.
Absolutely. And that's That's something we talk about on a pretty regular basis. Me, my partner, Aiden Eaton, we talk about that all the time. We have to take steps to mitigate risk, but our whole business is based around accepting a certain amount of risk. So for us, it's doing a lot of diligence. We require access to the accounts before we ever sign off on the commission fee structures or anything like that. We have to see what the client is currently doing, the opportunity for quick improvement, the long-term opportunity for improvement, but also that initial 45 days. What kind of impact do we believe, based on our experience and our knowledge set, that we can make quickly? Otherwise, you're right. We are upside down most of the time when we take on a new client. But if we're upside down for too long, that wouldn't be good for us. So we do have to pay attention to that a lot. And especially when you're dealing with bigger clients, bigger budgets, national clients, international clients, then the numbers get bigger, the numbers get scarier. So we have to make sure that we will be able to make an impact, and we have to come up with a plan as to how to do that. And we work backwards. We use the objective-based marketing approach to most new accounts and how we set things up. So we figure out the objectives, we define the objectives, we work really hard in the first couple of weeks to make sure that we understand the channels that we're going to use, the budgets, any of the techniques or tactics that are going to change, the messaging, things like that. But we work backwards to figure out what kind of impact we think we can have, and then we should be able to anticipate a return based on performance.
And all the traffic that you drive is to a website, or you use other platforms, or it's kind of more of a all-encompassing approach? What do you guys
We
typically target?
Websites and apps. So it could be, we do some work with app subscriptions and things like that. But generally speaking, it's a e-commerce platform, website, or Amazon. Not a whole lot of Facebook stores that we're marketing these days. It's all driving
TikTok?
people to the website.
Any-
We use TikTok. We do advertise on TikTok, and we do advertise on Meta. I was just talking about the stores, the simple stores you used to be able to build out on Facebook. I think you still can, but we don't do a
Right.
lot of that. But yeah, typically speaking, we need to, because of what we do, we need to make sure that analytics are in place. And so we're using GA4 to, we have cross-platform data, and we're able to look at users that come in through an ad, but eventually they're on the app, and then they might bounce out and do a search and go to the website and things like that. So that's become a lot more important. But generally speaking, we have to work with platforms that we can track and we can have data from.
So our agency is native Amazon, but we're expanding out into, using things like social and any kind of levers that we can pull to help grow a brand, especially on their Amazon side. And one thing that we've been studying is, the effect of sending traffic to Amazon versus a website. And we've noticed that maybe certain platforms perform better sending to one place versus another. It could also be dependent on the product or the category, the price point, and so on. So generally speaking, what do you guys find to be more successful, sending to Amazon or sending to the website? Or if it's both, like I say, is there any platform that you see kind of working better, like Pinterest for the Amazon link and then Meta for the website, or something like that?
Sometimes it is more of a cohort, kind of a combination of different things, but it does vary from client to client, product to product. We had a large direct-to-consumer product goods client back in 2020 that we worked with, and I think it was maybe 3x difference, the same ad, just driving people to Amazon versus driving people to the website. In their case, Amazon was kind of the winner. And it makes sense. The product that you were buying was under $80. And so it was not an impulse buy, but it was kind of in that range where people would make a quick decision. And I think in those cases, people are very comfortable with Amazon. They can track, where the package is, and they know that if it doesn't show up, they're going to get a refund. And people are a little more skeptical of websites. And so, one of the things that we do look at, especially in that case, we look at the website design, the user experience, how everything is laid out. And we've got to make sure that if we're going to send users to that website, that it's trustworthy and people have a good experience, because at any point in that process, if they don't like what they see or they don't like what's going on the page, they're going to leave and they're not going to convert. Amazon's got their, their system is pretty well figured out and converts at a pretty high rate. But I think there's going to be scenarios where we would rather send people to the website. I know that some of our clients would prefer sales to come from the website because Amazon obviously takes a cut. So we play that game a lot.
Yeah, you make better margin for sure on your website, but furthermore, I mean, it does increase your exit valuation when, a brand is considering to exit and they say, well, a huge chunk of our sales come from our own website. They own the customer, they own the data, right? Amazon just kind of takes all that away from you. Not to mention Amazon, and I don't want to badmouth Amazon. I love them, but
Right.
there's pros and cons, right? And on Amazon, you send traffic over there, and you can do attribution and all that, but they're advertising all these other products when you're shopping there. And on your
Mhm.
website, no one's advertising anything. It's all you, right? People can only see what you've put up there. So there's pros and cons on both sides. That's why I think,
That's a
and
really good point. It's a
yeah,
really good point. And I think, price, if you're a price play, it might be better for you on Amazon than other folks that are not the better price option. Then maybe they need to stick to the website. There's a lot of factors involved in that, but it's a good conversation to have.
yeah, yeah. It's hard, I mean, domain authority and SEO and all of that stuff. There's just so
Mhm.
many factors that come into building up a Shopify or a website for e-commerce. Amazon has it all figured out, like you said. They have the layout, they have the visibility. So if you know what
Mhm.
you're doing there, you're priced well, you have a good product, you could really get ahead. So let's talk a little bit about the AI use cases. You said you've seen some really
Sure.
great implementations. You've seen some not so great implementations. Uh, what's out there?
I So what we're seeing, and there's how it relates to clients and operational efficiency, and then there's how it relates to marketers, right? And so we have both those vantage points in our business. What we are seeing a lot of is a lot of early adopters. I don't think any of us have escaped all the conversation around AI since before this time last year. There has been a pretty good focus, especially within the big tech companies and bigger organizations out there. A big push to adopt and to kind of get on the bandwagon, and rightfully so. It's definitely here to stay. It's one of the bigger developments, probably in our lifetime, that we're going to see. I would compare it to 25, 30 years ago when search engines came out and really changed things. Um, so I do think that there's going to be a lot of change. Some of what I see is a little bit of an over reliance on AI and kind of not enough appreciation for the human mind. And I think there needs to be somebody driving that ship in most cases. AI can do a lot, but I think somebody needs to be I guess, managing that. They need to have an overview, I guess is what I'm trying to say, into what is being done and said, especially when it comes to conversational, uh, the side of things with AI, right? Or creative, because as we've all seen, the memes on social media with um, the AI designs where people have six fingers and missing a leg, and right, and just faces are not quite right. And so I would say that that's really indicative of the fact that AI is not quite there where I would feel comfortable, at least with my own company, with AI sending automated outreach. Some of the messages that I see are very easy to spot when it's written by AI. However, I do think that those repetitive processes can be automated, and we can use AI to help get ideas and help formulate that messaging. I think left to its own devices, though, a lot of times AI is not quite coming across as very human. And so when you're trying to make a human connection, especially the first time that you ever reach out to someone or try to make a connection on LinkedIn, or you send somebody a cold email, being impersonal and being inhuman is probably not the right route to go. So we see a lot of that. And so we've been advising our clients to use AI, especially the writing tools, Jasper and ChatGPT. I think back in May of last year, we had quite a few clients that wanted to write all of their blogs and articles with AI. I talked to a company that had developed 2,000 blog articles in a week. there's a balance right? There's a place where that is too much too soon. And if you're publishing 2,000 blogs, you probably didn't curate and edit and go through the writing. And if that's the case, then you're really just copying and pasting other people's websites into your own. And that carries over into SEO and a lot of digital marketing. I found that a lot of AI tools that we've explored have been very helpful for developing ad messaging, short form, short text ads. They're really good with long form content. That's where I see a lot of opportunity, and I can tell almost immediately when something's written by AI versus a human being. So I
Yeah.
think that's where, if somebody, like I said, is driving the ship and they see those ideas come through and they have experience in marketing and sales and they're able to kind of determine what sounds right, what doesn't, then it can be a very helpful tool. But if it's not used properly, it can really get you into trouble.
Yeah, like, there's definitely a huge issue with AI and Google, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's so much content out there that's produced by AI, and a lot of it can be easily masked. There's all these
Yes.
types of like additional twister applications that make it so it's undetectable that it's AI, but still it's missing sentience, which is the main thing here. And I think that somehow, I suspect that Google is trying to find a way to quantify or put that into their algorithm, sentience, right? Like, how do you do that? That's very hard, but I think this is the new challenge, and something that we have to deal with. Like, on, you mentioned LinkedIn, I sometimes see somebody asks a question, and then you have five people in a row answer almost in the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
some of these people are living in countries where English isn't the first language, but they're responding in perfect English every time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of it's an issue, for sure. But I agree with you. To get ideas, I mean, I see it a lot with product development. People
Mm-hmm.
are using GPT. They come up with a concept and say, okay, make me a business plan, and then you have a conversation back and forth with the bot, and it could be really helpful. And I think maybe in 10 years it might even be a requirement in school to some degree. I don't know what level of school, but prompt engineering.
Right.
I think everybody should understand how these things work, and how
Mm-hmm.
to utilize them in the best way. I mean, the development we've seen in the last year, as you mentioned, Dolly one or Dolly two. You put in prompt, and every time it would give you these disfigured people with multiple, teeth, or hands, fingers, like everything stacked up, and it looks so weird. But now look at things like Sora. I'm not sure if you've seen the early beta of Sora, which is from OpenAI. Video
Mm-hmm.
production looks like almost like it's been made by Pixar if it's animated, or a Hollywood movie, if it's like something like kind of magical, or like Lord of the Rings style sceneries and everything. It's no
Mm-hmm.
longer this type of like stack of photos next to each other that's transforming. So it's moving so fast, I really can't even imagine how that's going to affect
Yeah.
our industry. But soon I anticipate there's going to be companies out there that are 10 times cheaper than an agency, and you'll be able to put in some basic prompt, and maybe they'll manage your entire social media, and create assets for you, and make campaigns for you, and all of that. But that's kind of scary, because it's just going to be so much garbage and so much noise, and ads will become very expensive, or I don't
Yeah.
know. So
No, I think, and it's going to be interesting to see how things develop from that, because you've got tools like Syllabi.io, and you've got platforms, I should say, that'll um, become your video avatar, and they'll take a prompt and read it, and there's your YouTube video. Well, you combine that with the fact that you can just ask ChatGPT for the answer on something, right? Ask it to make it shorter, longer. Now you can automate, you can connect those apps through all these third-party connector apps. So at some point, it's going to become so automated, and I think it's going to affect social, that you're going to see a lot of brands that are putting stuff out there on a very regular basis that doesn't come from a human being at all. I'm already starting to see that a little bit. So cause and effect, I would probably venture to say that there will be some of that happens. I don't know how much. And then there will probably be an appreciation for real videos of real people that are actually speaking, and actually work at the companies they represent, or actually are experts in the field. And that's, I think, what's going to make a big difference in successful marketing in the next couple of years, especially as it comes to content. If the content is drab and it is low level quality, and you can tell that it's just an amalgamation of different fodder from around the internet, and that's coming from AI like Chat GPT or something like that. If it's not coming from a true place of authority and expertise, then people are going to spot that very quickly. And I think they're going to start appreciating the articles written by the true experts in their field and the authorities in their field. And authority is going to become much more important over the next couple of years because of this. How do you
Yeah,
stand out when everybody can use the same tool? You have to have the advanced knowledge that not even the bot has, right? And so we've been
yeah.
using the example that there's one person out there in the world that is the absolute expert in 15th century Scottish weaponry. I'm trying to be as random as possible. That's that person. That man or woman is the expert in that field. Well, there's probably 30 other folks that have researched weaponry in 15th century, and right, they might be kind of adjacent. They might have studied that a little bit, but they're not the absolute expert. Well, they publish articles and periodicals, and they put stuff out there on the web. Well, that's all information that's being fed into the machine learning, and they may not have the same authority as that person that has studied this their whole life. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a shift there. I don't know what it's going to look like, but with all this information flying everywhere in every direction, and everyone having access to it, it's going to make some big changes soon, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely this feedback loop that's occurring, right? Where you ask GPT a question and it's scouring the internet to find the answer, but then people are using GPT to publish something, and then it's using that same information that it created somewhere else to give you that answer. And so there just becomes like this information loop that it just almost like is owned by or and
Yeah.
manifested and just regurgitated. And yeah, there needs to be a way to break free from that. It's honestly one of the reasons, I even came up with this podcast. It's just a place for people to just have a conversation that's authentic and kind of show expertise in this type of way, show insight,
Yeah.
because it is becoming more rare with all of the information that's out there, or less, taking up less space, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah.
So have you used the well, it was Bard, now it's Gemini. So have you used Google's AI, and how do you feel like it stacks up with some of the other tools?
I mean, I've played around mostly with image generation, Stable Diffusion,
Yeah.
Midjourney, and DALI 3, and
Mm-hmm.
I think they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. um in terms of any kind of language models, I've really just been focusing on GPT.
Yeah.
Used a couple other ones, but um, there's definitely a race that's happening, between all these producers, and
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is funding AI.
Right.
So uh, they have a lot of resources. They're growing very fast. So it's a race, because there's so much technology that's connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to, I'm excited and curious to see how things will evolve. I definitely think, to your point, authenticity is going to
Yeah.
become more prominent. That's, people are going to want to look for that. People are going to want to create it. I even heard of things where people are trying to trick the algorithms on social media because there's facial detection, and they
Mm-hmm.
reward you more for facial detection. So they're just like every day posting a photo of their face in different sceneries, just to, signal the algorithm to give them more visibility, because that's what people respond more to, is real, authentic, just like simple. Before, maybe 10 years ago, marketing was about like these big budget productions, and now is just like a regular person saying something could go viral, where you have like this, 20,000, $50,000, 10-second clip somewhere, and nobody even cares. So that's how it's changing.
Yeah, I think just well, we've been kind of talking about it, the just the personal nature of those ads that are done, iPhone type videos that are just maybe somebody sitting at their desk like we are right now. Um, that comes across as genuine versus the big production videos. We still do some of those, but we're seeing a lot of success with the vertical videos and point and shoot, just somebody talking with a little bit of a background going on behind them. Um, so yeah, it's interesting to see that. And then what you mentioned about the SEO community, or sorry, the social media community, how they are figuring out these little pieces of the algorithm and all these tricks to get more impressions and get more views, especially on TikTok and on Reels with Instagram. It's it's not my area of focus, but it's very interesting to watch. And you can tell when you start to see things over and over again that people are doing that for that purpose.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amazon recently rolled out their kind of beta testing for AI images.
Hmm.
We played with it. I mean, it's not great. We did one product. It was a kitchen item, so it just kind of displayed the main product image on a kitchen counter, but there was all these weird objects. What is, they don't exist. They're just like, so like image models are like the same as like the large language models, but they're just using graphic elements, and so it could just kind of
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. There's not really like, and so it's surprising that Amazon is releasing it, but they're just working with whatever's out there. They're just using the models and the systems that were already pre-built. I don't know if they're building their own necessarily, but
Hmm.
I mean, it's just kind of early. I think they just wanted to be in the game, but it's in such an early beta. I would never publish that kind of content. I mean, if you're really small seller and you don't have maybe access to many resources or partners or graphics designers, and you want to just get something out there, that might be okay. But as an agency to publish content like that, I mean, I'd much rather do it in house and make it look 10 times better.
Yeah. I mean, a light box is not too expensive, so
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get wrapped up into that early on, and we get a lot of calls because we're a commission-based agency, so we get a lot of interest from startups and brand new businesses. And so I actually had a conversation with somebody today. Same thing, trying to get started. What do I do? Do I use these tools online to take pictures of my products? They always set up the store first, and then they want to know how to market it, right? So I think, yeah, light box is not that expensive. Go get a light box, get some lighting, $60 maybe. If you can't do that, then well, maybe save a little before you start the business. But once you do that bare minimum, if you can just take 30 minutes and go on YouTube, learn how to take those shots, do it yourself. Um, we've seen a lot of issues with those tools with product photos in particular. And then we also demoed some software that earlier in the year that was geared towards creating video content for social media. Same experience. Same experience. We looked at it. We said we can't use this. There's stuff that's not even. We couldn't tell what it was. It was just some abstract shape that was supposed. Who knows what it was supposed to be? But we couldn't figure it out. So it's like you said. It's not quite there yet. But I've seen some of the commercial worthy ads that have been produced by some of the other platforms. I mean, so it's like you said, it's a race, and some of these companies are going to figure it out, and when that happens, yikes, maybe we're all out of a job in marketing, or we just got to adjust. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll
Take a
see.
course in prompt engineering.
Right. No, my son, he's going into fifth grade, and one of the elective classes that I had to sign up for last night, we had to pick his classes. One of those was something to do with app development, and that was a clear first choice. Whereas when I was coming through school, that wasn't even a thing. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we had computer science growing up, and that was about it. You just learn how to use an Excel sheet
Learn how
now.
to type. That's
Yeah,
all it was.
exactly.
Remember
Yeah.
Guam, and to learn how fast you could write words. That was the whole.
Yeah,
Then
they
then
turned it
learn
into a
Word.
game.
Take 6 months to learn Microsoft Word. Now kids just know it. They just figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, that's technology. It's good, but it has its nuances. Like we just have to, like
Yeah.
this discussion, and we have to be careful, mindful of the tools.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
like
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, you work with a lot of companies who are launching applications actually, right? So are you seeing a lot of like AI based tools going to market right now? I mean, in the big race with the big producers, there's also a ton of these SaaS solutions that I see coming out every day. and
Mhm.
applications for mobile, using AI just to solve one particular issue or pain point for a seller or a customer or whatever. Are you
Mhm.
guys working with a lot of companies like that?
Most of what we see are larger organizations looking to partner with other companies that provide that type of service, um, rather than trying to develop it internally. It's obviously pretty advanced, and not most of them would have the resources for that. But every single one of the large companies we work with is utilizing ChatGPT or some other form of either chatbot or AI. Every platform that we use, just about, internally, we use Salesforce, we use Slack. Um, we have a lot of different tech tools, and all of them have some kind of AI component. Our phone system now has AI attached, where it'll listen out for certain keywords, and it'll listen out for tone, or if I have, um, somebody calls in and they call into the support line, and there's a um, strain in their voice, I get a notification to let me know, hey, you might want to pull and listen to this call. Um, so I think it's becoming integrated. I don't know if they're necessarily going out to develop it themselves, but they are finding ways to integrate and adopt, for sure. We see that in a big way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you market these types of things? I mean, with all the competition and people trying to get involved, like what's the best way to go to market, offering these types of solutions? Like what?
Offering, yeah, yeah, yeah. So from the perspective of the folks that are, or the businesses that are, well, I think what everyone's focused on is their own operational efficiencies and trying to automate repetitive low end processes, trying to make their business more efficient. I haven't seen, I guess from how I understand the question, like I haven't seen a whole lot of companies adopting it and then trying to resell a service, or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, using it as like a marketing kind of thing, we'll just say like, we're more efficient because we have these solutions that make us
Yeah.
better in this type of way.
What we're getting a lot of right now is we're getting a lot of help. So we have one client that they they adopted this image generating AI, and all of a sudden we had 50, 60 new assets overnight, and we had some ad campaigns that the ads were a little stale, and so that was really helpful, and nobody had to spend 60 hours or however much time it would have taken to do that. So that was very helpful. So we are seeing a lot of adoption there with the content writing, some of the content development. I've even seen some web building, some of these apps that, or some of these tools that will build web pages on your currently existing website without you having to really do a lot of oversight. It just kind of lets you know this page is done. This, build out 5, 6 pages real quick. So I have seen some of that used successfully, which was surprising. I thought I would look at it and there would be all the issues, kind of like what we were saying before, but it actually was very good. Um, but I haven't seen a whole lot of that yet. I guarantee I do over the next 6 months.
Absolutely. I mean, if I heard a company is able to create assets faster than everybody else, if I
Mm-hmm.
if I was a larger company that wanted to do that type of promotion, like with wide net of different type of content, test many different audiences, I mean, to sit there and spend all that time going back and forth, if you can get that done, it's like what you said, right? If you have a human aspect there, if you have somebody in your company that's managing that and using it as a tool, and it's under your authority as the agency to say, all right, these are assets that are approved by us, we used AI to get it done faster and better, then I think that's an amazing marketing angle, right, for any service provider.
Oh yeah, we're adopting it ourselves. We're trying to figure out how we can use the technology without being dependent on the technology, but and we don't want to become so reliant on it that we lose that creative touch, that spark. And most creative agencies would say the same thing. There is a big jump between what's produced in that manner and then something that somebody comes up with just out of their own mind. Um, I will say some of what I'm concerned about is that we have people on staff that know how to design a logo. They know how to build out a campaign, and they know how to build all the assets for it, and things like that. As AI comes into place a little bit more, I don't know if that the newer marketers, the younger marketers, are going to develop those skills in the same way, which is going to create a skill gap down the road. So that does kind of concern me a little bit. To your point from earlier, we're adopting these tools, and it's going to give us a competitive advantage to be able to produce 60 assets overnight. What is it going to be at the level that it needs to be? That's yet to be seen. And then once it is, the ramification is, well, now we don't have some junior designer that's learning how to do that. Is there going to be anybody that knows how to do that outside of AI in 10 years? I don't know. So that'll be interesting to to see how that works out.
Yeah, I think that real talent, just like what we were saying about what people want to see on social, real
Mm-hmm.
talent from a hiring perspective is just going to be more valuable than ever. People will be able to tell the difference. Right now, it's hard to, like, right now, everybody claims to be an expert. It's another reason why
Yes.
we're here having this conversation. There's a lot of
Right.
places in the world where they're just doing this mass production of these so-called experts in every industry across the internet, and they finish a course and say that they're experts. What
Yeah.
gives you expertise is the challenges of managing things for years and years and years, and seeing how things change over time, and being there doing the dirty work.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing from a conceptual level doesn't make you by any means an expert. So it's going to be the same thing. Did you just use AI
Yeah.
tools to become a copywriter, or did you actually spend a bunch of time learning and testing copy that actually performs well out in the world? It's like,
Right.
it might be a bad analogy, but I imagine, like, now every car has a backup camera. So how many people actually can back up a car without a camera? Like, how many
Right.
people are, turning their head and, not bumping into things? Like, that used to be the norm, and now everybody got used to the comfort of that. And I think it's just gonna, so we need to be able to still do things without the technological assistance. But
Right.
it's a shame, right? Like, kids and their homework, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what what's that going to look like, right? You just type into GPT the question, and
Oh,
it just spits out a bunch of there's your essay, right? In 2 minutes,
yeah.
go back to playing video games. How is education going to change?
Yeah. We already had to deal with that with our own
Oh
with
yeah.
my son. Um, and why wouldn't he? That was smart. Go to. He was just going to Google, I think, at the time. But yeah. So we're gonna have to figure that out. To your point from earlier, I think you're spot on. Right. The backup camera is a good analogy, and we may not need to know how to turn and back up properly until that camera goes out. But then you're going to need it. Well, somebody at one point said the same thing about bridling a horse when they came out with the automobile. Well, we don't know how to do that. We didn't need to know how to do that. So there's some things are going to go, and that's okay. But there is a skill set that is it's in high demand. It is not readily available, right? And that is true digital experts, not somebody like you said that took a class and has been doing this for 3-4 months, and so experience is becoming a little bit more valuable than it used to be, more than education, more than a knack, right? Because until you have come across those situations, until you've had to fix problems, until you've worked with a lot of different types of businesses, business models, go to market strategies, they don't teach that. So it takes time, like you said, years to learn those skills. And so people that have been doing this for a long time, they generally speaking are going to be much more valuable, and they always have been, but I think more so now than it used to be, because anybody can go to chat gpt and get the answer, but only the experienced experts are going to know the right answer. So
Yeah. Yeah. LinkedIn has their section right now where people post questions, and then you can become like a top authority in your niche by answering those questions. But I go into there, and I see that all the responses are GPT automated, so
yeah.
it's like LinkedIn tried to bring in that authenticity, and it's like kind of shut down. So we'll have to keep coming up with new ways. But I see
Mm-hmm.
more and more with services and with products that relevancy and trust have become
Yeah.
the primary attributes for people to move forward with what they're doing. For somebody to buy something, they really need
Mhm.
to trust. And how
Yeah.
do you prove that? How do you gain that type of authority and respect? And I guess that's why influencers have become the thing, right? Influencer marketing and people creating content, because they are where all the trust and authority is at. But a lot of them are also just taking whatever product to advertise as long as they're getting paid. So then how could you really trust them now, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard to decipher on the internet, where to trust the true opinions and ideas. Just personal networks, I suppose. Your friend tells you about something, or your colleague tells you about something. That's how things are used to be, and I think that's what's happening now again. It's kind of returning back to that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a cycle, and rightfully so. Um, I think that there is a reluctance for people to share true expertise right now, especially on social media where it's so public, it's so visible. Everyone is very safe with their answers, and that might be a little bit of why everyone's answer seems the same, because that's the safe go-to answer, or that's the publicly accepted, PC kind of answer. But also, I do think it's influenced a lot by ChatGPT or all these tools that people are utilizing. Just going out to Google and doing a Google search now, most people I think are in that beta program where they have generative AI as part of their search experience already. And so even just going out to Google, you're using AI. So they're pulling in that information, and they're trying to make sure that what they say is accurate, uh, that it is. They're not going to say something that people are going to refute or give them a hard time about. I see that a lot, and so people are generally safe with their answers. So you get 10 of the same response, and it's whatever is the top result on Google. And then you'll have some guy in the back usually saying, "No, that's not how you do this," or you need to clarify that. It depends on the situation. And so what I've realized is that the folks that I think are the most, they have the most expertise in their field, are very reluctant to give quick, uncomplicated, and their answers are a little bit more um, contingent upon certain criteria. They'll ask a lot of clarifying questions. If somebody asks me what's the best website CMS, I can't give you an answer to that because I don't know what type of business you have. Is it e-commerce? Is it more of an informational site? How many pages is it? What do you want to do with it? Right. So I think that there's a lot of, you ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
No.
I'm a big subscriber to that. It's the belief that and you said it earlier, after 20 minutes of watching a video, you feel like you're an expert. Um, that's what it is that when you first learn about something, you feel like you are very knowledgeable in that space. And then as you actually get knowledgeable in that space, you start to learn how much you really don't know, how little you do know, and how many exceptions there are to everything that you thought you knew. And so you go through this period of pit and despair where you feel like you don't know anything. And then if you keep at something, you see the curve, it kind of comes back up, and you realize that, well, I do know more than the average bear, and I do a pretty good job here in this area. And you start to develop that expertise that only comes with time that we talked about earlier. So I think a lot of that's going on, but you have a lot of people that are at the top of that hill in that Dunning-Kruger effect. They did their 2 weeks of YouTube research, which with all my schooling, that's everything that I use all day. I learned from YouTube, not in school, unfortunately. Don't show this to Wingate or Florida Tech. But I learned everything on YouTube, but that, it still takes years to become an expert. Learning something conceptually, like you said earlier, is a lot different than being an expert. And I think that influences people's comments and their responses to those questions.
It's kind of motivating, right? Like when you get to a point where you're just like, man, this thing is so big. I'm like so small. There's so much to learn. There's so
Yeah.
much to do. That's what pushes you to become an expert truly. Yeah. If you stay in this space of, I've watched all the videos and I'm pretty much know it all, and it's kind of
Yeah.
ignorant in a way. So it's
What's
it's nice
the,
to stay hungry.
yeah, what was the example we used earlier? The 15th century Scottish weaponry. I think it's way more important now to specialize, because Because if you try to learn a big field, like nobody's really a marketing expert unless they've been doing this 30, 40 years, right? Nobody's going to be able to understand and comprehend every single facet of marketing, from lead generation, from all the different systems integrations and the tools, all the way into creative and color theory and all the things that we deal with every day. But I have trusted advisors in those areas. I don't do video, so I have somebody that helps me with video. If I need brand research, I have somebody that I can trust for that. But I think that you find a niche, you find one little area where, hey, this is my area, and now I'm going to become the expert in it. And then you gain experience through osmosis in other adjacent areas. But I think that's really important that you narrow that focus these days, because there is so much out there. You're never going to learn it all. So, and you gotta know that. You gotta admit that to yourself, that, hey, I don't know everything, and just because it's related to marketing doesn't mean that I'm supposed to be the expert in it, right? Get more familiar with your colleagues and get a consult once in a while.
I recently was speaking to a client, and he was sharing one of his strategies that's kind of working adjacent with our Amazon and social strategies, and it was about
Mm-hmm.
buying TV slots, right, on cable, and
Mm-hmm.
QVC and all of that. And that was so fascinating to me, because it's not something that I hear very often. And I'm like, wow, people still pick up their phone and dial a number and order on the phone, and that still exists. Like, there's marketing has been around for so long, right? We're so used to this, like, Facebook ad conversion, pixel tracking, all that stuff. And here
Yeah.
people are just simple as, like, I'm watching something on TV and the commercial comes on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, impulse buy. It
Yeah.
works, right? Yeah.
And there's somebody
So
out there that's the absolute expert at QVC marketing,
yeah,
right? That's not me, but
yeah.
there's somebody out there that is. So maybe they're
Well,
writing blogs about it every day. I wouldn't know.
well, Josh, I think we're at time now. So
Okay.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing this, all your insights and all your experience so far, and this very highly emerging subject and field. Um, as a closer, is there, any place that people can kind of reach out, find you, anything, any partnerships that you're looking for at the moment, or any, opportunities to reach out to you, if that, now's the time to share if you want.
Sure. Yeah, we've got a lot of great partnerships. We partner with a lot of agencies in Charlotte, from Augusta to Charlotte, North Carolina, down in Florida. So we've built a really good network of experts in those specialty areas, like I was mentioning earlier. Um, so whether you're looking for branding, whether you're looking for market research, videography, whatever it may be, we can put you in touch with those agencies. They're great. If you're looking for performance-based, commission-based digital marketing, then our website is witgroupagency.com, and you can learn about our services and you can get in touch with us that way.
Awesome. Thanks again, Josh.
Thanks,
Uh,
Pasha.
that concludes the show. I'm going to do the outro, my favorite little clip here, and then we'll end. Take care.
Cool. You too.